What is up, everyone? I'm Rusty, your local laboratory maniac, and this is Labman EDH. I'm coming to you with another video. Now, this has actually become a series on my channel where I pick a certain color pairing and I build decks around it, usually around 10 decks, but who knows. Today, I'm doing 10 unique blue EDH decks. I've done red and black so far. Blue has some limitations, but also some pretty good strengths, so we'll be playing around with those to make a unique deck for you that you can take during your commander nights. Now, these will be brief descriptions of the decks. I don't have any deck lists made for some of these, some of them I do. But if you want a longer form video explaining a particular deck, comment down below which deck you'd like to see, and I will add it to a video. Until then, let's go ahead and just jump into it. When you think blue, you probably don't think reanimation. That's typically a black aligned ability. However, I got a blue reanimation deck here for you. It goes with Kaldra, the Rising Tide. It's a 3 mana blue legendary creature, Merfolk Noble. When it enters, you draw 2 and then discard 2. Then when she attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may create a Scion of the Deep, a legendary 8/8 blue octopus creature token. It's a 3/2. So she's the commander because she draws and discards. That's the main thing we want. We will have a lot of stuff in our graveyard, so that threshold ability is pretty cool. However, that token is legendary, so keep that in mind. One kind of reanimation style effect, it's not really reanimating, it's more like copying things in the graveyard, is Body Double. I love this card. It's a 5 mana blue shapeshifter. You may have Body Double enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature in a graveyard. It's a 0/0. So it's going to be copying all your big stuff. Of course, like most reanimation decks, we're going to be reanimating large creatures. So Body Double can become one of those large creatures. Now, Kaior is a pretty interesting character. She has Battle the Eldrazi with giant leviathans. She'd go around different planes collecting leviathans, krakens, all these huge sea monsters like Ash Ketchum collects Pokemon. She even beat the sea god on Theros and stole her Bident. Now, recently, she was actually in the War of the Spark. She helped the Gatewatch, but was trapped by the Immortal Sun, like all the Planeswalkers were. At one point, Dak Faden tried to touch her Bident that she stole from the Sea God, and he really regretted that. He tried to copy it, but the Immortal Sun was eventually disabled, but Kyora stayed to fight. She declined to join them on Theros to pay respects to Gideon, probably because she feared the Sea God. The Phyrexian invasion kicked off, and she returned back to Zendikar to defend it like she always does, but then she lost her spark in the Great Desparkening. So, blue can reanimate creatures, but it can also reanimate artifacts, reanimate instants and sorceries. So, we're going to be playing around with all those. Some cards that can reanimate creatures, or really any permanent, are Reenact the Crime and Desecrate Reality. So, Reenact the Crime is a 4 mana blue instant. Exile target non land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn, copy it. You may cast a copy without paying its mana cost. So it is the caveat it had to go to the graveyard this turn. However, it could be any non-land card that was put into any graveyard. So keep that in mind, and you do get to cast it, so you get a cast trigger. Hopefully some cool little Drazi hit your graveyard, and you don't have to pay for the cast. Then you got Desecrate Reality. It's a 7 mana instant. For each opponent, exile up to one target permanent that player controls with an even mana value. And then if 3 or more colorless mana was spent to cast this spell, return a permanent card with an odd mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's removal, and it's a 3-for-1 removal, which is pretty good. Has the limitation of having to be even, but we are blue, so we're going to have a lot of artifacts for our mana ramp, so that colorless shouldn't be an issue. Now, what kind of cards will you be reanimating? You can do big creatures. For example, All-Seeing Arbiter is a 6 mana blue creature avatar. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you draw 2 and then discard a card. And then Whenever you discard a card, target creature an opponent controls gets -X, -0 until end of the next turn, where X is the number of different mana values among cards in your graveyard, and it's a 5/4. So 5/4 flyer is nothing to sneeze at, but it also draws us cards and discards cards. So we're netting one card, which is pretty nice. And it also if you discard at instant speed, this can almost act as a defensive card because you can give stuff -X to their attack. Then you got Hullbreaker Horror. I don't really probably need to go over this card. This is probably one of the biggest, meanest mono blue creatures out there. I do love the art of this card on this particular printing. So it is a 7 mana blue Kraken Horror. It has flash, can't be countered, and whenever you cast a spell, you choose one. You return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. It's a 7/8. So basically, it's an answer to almost anything on the field or anything your opponent casts. Now, this deck is a lore based deck. It's based around Jace, the Perfected Mind. Now, if you don't know, Jace, he led the Gatewatch, did his thing, and they went to Phyrexia like a bunch of idiots, knowing that Phyrexia can infect planeswalkers now. But don't worry, they had a little safeguard that instantly got destroyed. But Jace ends up getting infected. And this was the most interesting thing, in my opinion, to ever happen to Jace and made him a compelling character. So I actually built this deck in paper. Now, for the commander, you can go a few ways. There's actually a Jace creature that flips into a planeswalker, but I actually went Tecuthal Inquiry Dominus. It's a 4 mana blue legendary creature, Phyrexian Horde, has flying. If you proliferate twice instead, and then you can pay 3, remove 3 counters from among other artifacts, creatures, or planeswalkers you control to put an indestructible counter on it. It's a 3/5. So proliferating with a bunch of Jaces out, you kind of see where this is going. We want to proliferate as much as possible in order to ultimate our Jaces. For example, Jace the Perfected Mind is a 4 mana blue legendary planeswalker, and it has the completed ability. So for the completed ability, Phyrexia mana can be paid with a blue or 2 life. If life was paid, the planeswalker actually enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. So keep that in mind. But the ultimate is what we're looking for here. Target player mills 3 times X cards. So if you can get that up to 10, you can mill them 30. Get up to 15, mill them 45. Let's talk about Jace's completion. He was turned by his romantic interest, Vraska. When he became infected, it wasn't instant. He fought it the best he could in his mind while physically fighting the Phyrexians. But soon it was too obvious to ignore. His right arm became fully mechanized. Cables sprouted from his body, but he still had control and prepared to activate the Silex. Now, that was the plan for the whole time, is to activate that Silex Blast and kill New Phyrexia and destroy it completely. However, Kaya and Kato start attacking Jace. They change their minds for some reason, but they essentially thought that since there's planes, the planar portals open everywhere, that it would harm other planes and not just New Phyrexia. But Jace is like, no, this is the way to get rid of the threat. I'm going to do it. He cut his forehead. Ichor poured out of his forehead into the Silex. He filled it with the memories and regrets, and it became activated. And at the last minute, Elspeth came in, impales Jace with a halo-infused blade, and then planeswalked away with the Silex. He eventually gets cured of his own Phyrexian infection by literally thinking it away out of his body. Now, that is the dumbest way to cure Phyrexia. Wizards of the Coast, come on now, be better than that. Now, you probably want to throw in as many Phyrexian style cards as you can. You don't have to. You don't have to include Infect if you don't want, but I thought it would be fitting. Vile Drake is a good example of this that also proliferates. It's a 4 mana blue Drake, has flying, Infect, and you can pay for it to proliferate. And it's a 1/4. Then you can do Contagion Engine style effects. It's a 6 mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you put a -1/-1 counter on each creature target player controls. Then you can pay 4 to proliferate, and then proliferate again. So it's essentially pay 4, proliferate 4 times if you have your commander, and hopefully that's enough to ultimate one of your Jaces. Maybe he'll finally get the Silex Blast that he always wanted. Now, Ichor Moon Gauntlet is another great ad for this. It is a 4 mana blue artifact. Planeswalkers you control have 0 proliferate or -12 take an extra turn after this. So if you're proliferating enough and you have enough repeatable proliferate effects, you can essentially go infinite with this card. It also has the ability whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose a counter on target permanent, put an additional counter of that kind on the permanent. And then, of course, I actually originally had a mono blue Jace deck around milling. It wasn't a Phyrexian themed at all, and I actually had the Jace islands. There are islands that have Jace on it. When he was a castaway, they made a few, but I switched it over to the Phyrexian lands. So I just wanted as much flavor in this deck, but you don't have to go that far. You can just build a mono blue Super Friends deck and see where it goes. This next deck is essentially a mana ramp deck. Basically, what we want to do is use Go-Go, Master of Mimicry, and fetch lands in order to just mana ramp like crazy. So, Go-Go is a 3 mana blue legendary creature wizard. You pay X, X, and tap it to copy target activated or trigger ability you control X times. You may choose new targets for the copies. This ability can't be copied, and X can't be 0, and it's a 2/4. So basically, what you do is use something like Flooded Strands, or if you want to go budget, do Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse kind of effects. Because when you tap it to sacrifice it, that is an activated ability. So you use Go-Go's effect. Let me just kind of set the board for you. You have, let's say, 6 mana on board with Go Go out. You play your Flooded Strand. You tap it, pay a life, sacrifice it. Then you pay 6, so X is 3. Copy that 3 times. So you actually go get 4 lands, and you'll total 10 lands. Next turn, you untap, you play your Terramorphic Expanse or something. You tap that, then you copy that 5 times. Now you go get 6 lands. Now you have 16 lands. Turn 7, that's pretty good for a mono blue deck. So that's essentially the theme of this deck. Now, Gogo is a mime and can mimic the actions of anyone. The copying is so perfect that he even synchronizes his blinking with theirs. Now, at one point in the game, he dislikes how long they have been idle without mimicking anyone, implying that something is very enjoyable about mimicking, or it's addictive. Or a dark theory I have is he's probably not comfortable in his own body and seeks to be someone else. He doesn't even have his own voice because he is a mime. This is a common trope in mimics. They kind of lose their identity or dislike their identity and become someone else. Go-Go is not the only way we're going to mana ramp in this deck with fetch lands. We're also going to do Dreamscape Artist. It's a 2 mana blue human spell shaper. You pay 3, tap it, discard a card, sacrifice a land. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them into play. Then shuffle your library. And it's a 1/1. So that is also an ability we can copy with Go-Go if we wanted. And we don't have to discard another card or sacrifice a land because that's part of the cost. That's not actually part of the ability. And there's even other ways. Mitotic Manipulation is a 3 mana blue sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards onto the battlefield if it has the same name as a permanent that you control. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So if you have an island, bang bada boom, 3 mana, look at top 7, you're probably going to have an island in there and you can mana ramp that way. Now, where you want to take the rest of the deck is up to you. You have a lot of mana. Do you want to do X spells? Do you want to do big beaters like Hullbreaker Horror? Do you just want to have huge, high mana costing stuff with activated and triggered abilities? For example, Lord of Change. It's a 7 mana demon blue, flying, ward 3. Whenever Lord of Change enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards and it's a 6/6. Or you can do like an enchantment theme with Curse of Unbinding. It's a 7 mana or a curse enchant player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. You put that onto the battlefield under your control. That player puts the rest of the revealed cards into their graveyard. So there's many different ways you can go with this deck. But the main purpose of the deck is to use Go-Go and fetch lands to mana ramp, and then the rest is up to you. This next deck is built around three equipments: the Sword of Kaldra, Helm of Kaldra, and Shield of Kaldra. Now, this is a typical achievement unlock style deck, but it's going to be pretty good. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, Sword gives them +5/+5, and if it deals damage, it exiles that creature. Helm gives them first strike, trample, and haste. And then the most important, what we're building around, is that 1 mana ability. If you control the shield, helm, and sword, you make a 4/4 colors avatar legend creature token named Kaldra, put it into play, and attach the equipment to it. And then the shield gives indestructible and is indestructible. So basically, we're going to try to make as many of the 4/4 colorless avatar legends named Kaldra that we can. They are legends, so our commander is going to be Sakashima because they get rid of the legend rule. Kaldra was a gigantic Mirran avatar made of blue and white plasma that Glissa Sunseeker summoned after collecting all three artifacts. Mamnarch actually took control of it though, but it was destroyed by the Green Sun in the battle. It later then got restored and completed by Phyrexia and was entered into the Living Weapons program by Glissa. She also obviously turned into a Phyrexian, as you know. She developed a germ for it herself, hoping it will become as powerful as the original, or it would be destroyed. Either way, Phyrexia will be stronger for it. Not only can Sakashima get rid of the legend roll, but it can also copy anything. It's a really unique commander. I really love this character. Then you got something like Mirror Box. It's a 3 mana artifact saying the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. Each legendary creature gets +1/+1, and each non token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. Now, of course, that last ability isn't going to work for our Kaldra tokens because they are tokens. However, it still will boost them all +1/+1, and redundancy in case they try to destroy your Sakashima while you have a bunch of Kaldra tokens out, which would kill everything due to the legend rule. If this is also on the field, that means they have to have removal for both of them. So redundancy can be good. Believe it or not, there's some interesting blue cards that work really well with tokens. Junkwinder is one of my favorites. It's a 7 mana blue serpent, affinity for tokens. Whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, tap target non land permanent an opponent controls. It doesn't untap during that controller's next untap step, and it's a 5/6. So essentially, you pay 1 mana, make a Coldra, tap down something, and it doesn't untap during their next untap. That's pretty powerful. Another one that I never see play is Day of the Dragons. It's a 7 mana blue enchantment. When Day of the Dragon enters the battlefield, exile all creatures you control. Then create that many 5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying. And when Day of the Dragons leaves the battlefield, you sacrifice all dragons you control, then return the exile cards to the battlefield under your control. So, what I would use this for is essentially to make evasive tokens. Now, you are risking it being removed. However, if you hold up some counter or something to protect it, you can essentially, with 8 dragons, 8 tokens, essentially one shot your opponent, no matter if they have any ground blockers. Those tokens are not artifacts, but they are colorless. So something like All is Dusk can wipe the whole board and keep all your culture pieces and all your tokens. It is a 7 mana sorcery. It says each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. Then you got something like Trophy Mage and other. Since we are in blue, we can tutor for artifacts pretty well. You're not going to have any problem getting Coldra out. This one tutors on ETB for something that costs 3 mana, but there's plenty of options out there. And that's essentially the deck. Get Coldra out, get rid of the legend roll, hit that one button 1,000 times, make as many tokens, an army of tokens as you can, and then swing in for game. I kind of just realized a lot of these decks somehow tie into Phyrexia in some way. I think I've mentioned Phyrexia in all of the decks. They had a huge impact in the story, I guess. Jin-Gitaxias is the next commander. But really we want the Great Synthesis. So the Great Synthesis is the saga side of Jin-Gitaxias, but it is not legendary. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy that saga, and it's a powerful saga. We're going to copy it as many times to get the value. Now let's just go over these two cards. Well, it's one card, but two sides. Jin-Gitaxias is a 5-mana blue legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. As War 2, whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, you draw a card. You can pay 4, exile them, then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you have 7 or more cards in hand. It's a 5/5. So a lot of good draw value in there. On your commander, that's perfect. That's amazing. Then you got the Great Synthesis. It's a saga as 3 chapters. The first chapter says, draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size for as long as you control the Great Synthesis. Then chapter 2, return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hand. And then chapter 3 says, you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. Then you exile the Great Synthesis, then return it to the battlefield. So that one ability, that chapter 1, will draw you 7 cards, because just to transform Jin-Gitaxias, you have to have 7. So you have 14 total. Then it bounces everything, and then it gives you omniscience, essentially. You get to cast everything for free. That is very powerful, and we're going to be trying to copy the Great Synthesis as much as possible. Elish Norn gets all the glory as being the leader and mother of machines, blah, blah, blah. Jin-Gitaxias was probably the most impactful praetor in all of Magic, far more than Elish Norn. Although Elish Norn united all the Phyrexians through force, Jin-Gitaxias actually used Phyrexia's infectious oil, increased its potency, and then used the reality chip to infect planeswalkers. Before, planeswalkers could not be infected, or they could be infected, but they would lose their soul, which would lose their spark. Now, he was obsessed with perfection, Jin-Gitaxias. He thought the father of machines, Karn, was imperfect. He came up with an ideology known as the Great Synthesis, a twist on Phyrexian philosophy to make perfection easier. He hated other factions, but kept a fake neutral position. He was obsessed with the occult, and he can actually is rumored to use white and black mana as well. He is presumed dead currently. He was struck down, and it is implied that he was ripped apart by his own Phyrexian minions. So we're in blue. Copying the Great Synthesis will not be hard. Extravagant Replication is a great example of this. It's a repeatable copying ability. It's 4 in a 2 blue enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of another target non-land permanent you control. Or you can do something like Copy Enchantment. It's a 3 mana enchantment that comes in as a copy of any enchantment on the battlefield. Now, I hear they're changing the rules of how transform cards work. And at the beginning, that you used to only be able to copy the front side, whatever's face up. But from my understanding, they can transform now, or they're going to transform. I don't know if the rule comes in play. You know, look that up. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what's taking place. The Great Synthesis, of course, is a saga. So you're going to want to put all the saga related cards, things that remove counters and things that add counters. Goldberry River's Daughter is something that removes counters. You also got Power Conduit, Nesting Grounds. There's plenty of ways to do it. Then you got proliferate stuff like Flux Chandler. It is a 3 mana blue human wizard. Whenever you cast a non creature spell, proliferate. And this is almost like a pseudo enchantress deck, so you're going to be proliferating almost every turn. Although you really don't have to, you can include other sagas in this deck. The Phasing of Zhalfir is a 4 mana blue saga. It has read ahead, so you can pick whichever one you want. It has 3 chapters, but the first 2 are the same. Another target non-land permanent phases out. It can't phase in for as long as you control Phasing of Zhalfir. And then you can pay 3, destroy all creatures. For each creature destroyed this way, its controller creates a 2/2 black Phyrexian creature token. So it's a board wipe in blue. You rarely see that. Then you can do Kyora Best the Sea God, which I actually talked about earlier in this video, where she stole the Sea God Thassa's Bident. It's a 7 mana blue saga. It has 3 abilities. You create the first one creates an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token with hexproof. The second one, tap all non-land permanents target player controls. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. And then 3, you gain control of target permanent opponent controls, untap it. So if you're constantly making 8/8 tokens with this, it's going to be pretty brutal. This next deck is a polymorph style deck built around Jalira, Master Polymorphist. She's a 4 mana blue legendary creature human wizard. You pay 3, tap her, sacrifice another creature. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non legendary creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a 2/2. So, what we're going to be doing in this deck, we're going to mostly have all legendary creatures. And then we're going to have one, maybe two non-legendary creatures that we want as our secret commander. This is a really good commander if you want to play a secret commander. For example, you could play Guile and do a counterspell tribal situation. So Guile is a 6 mana blue creature. It says Guile can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. If a spell or ability you control would counter a spell, instead exile that spell and you may play that card without paying its mana cost. But when Guile is put into the graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. It's a 6/6. So this ability plus maybe like a Blight Steal or something, them shuffling themselves back into your library is really good for us because then we can just polymorph them back out with our commander. So we'll go over a few more cards you can choose for a secret commander, but first let's get into some lore. Now, Jalira is from Chandalar, which I want them to revisit one day. She's from a dangerous city of Lesh. She is known as a swindler and a con artist and has active arrest warrants out. She was caught pickpocketing with Yasin. If you know Yasin, he is a green commander. I think he's like a bard. They were caught doing the pickpocketing and forced to return the items, but they kept a journal that they stole that had details of a treasure hunting party that had died. They went into the wilds to find those bodies and to essentially rob them. But there were slivers there. There's a hive of slivers. They eventually turned themselves into slivers to enter the hive to steal the money. However, the sliver hive lord quickly stopped them and stripped them of their sliver bodies, returning them into their original forms. They found the loot in the treasure and the bodies. They grabbed the treasure and just ran for it and then left the body. I mean, these guys aren't good people. I like it that it's a blue character that is just kind of the worst. Which secret commander do you want? That's totally up to you. One card that I used to love, it was like the bomb blue card back in the day, was Stormtide Leviathan. It's an 8 mana blue Leviathan, has Island Walk, and then all lands are islands in addition to their other types. And then creatures without flying or Island Walk can't attack, and it's 8/8. So you could build the deck so you care about Island Walk, you care about things being islands, and then you make sure your stuff has island walk and flying so you can attack and your opponent probably can't. And being an 8/8 is no laughing matter. That's a pretty powerful card. You could also do Beguiler of Wills. It's a 5 mana blue creature, human wizard. You tap it, gain control of target creature with power less than or equal to the number of creatures you control, and it's a 1/1. So you could kind of do like a tap, untap kind of style theme if you wanted to steal all your opponent's stuff. That could be a pretty cool card. Remember, most of your creatures are going to be legendary, but there's plenty of legendary creatures to play that untap stuff or make things island, give things island walk, or counter spells. You have many options here. This next deck built around the Grandeur ability. Now, blue is unique for Grandeur because it can return things to your hand pretty easily. So, what is Grandeur? Okay, let's talk about Lanessa Zephyr Mage is a 4 mana blue legendary creature, human wizard. You pay X in 2 blue tapper. Return target creature with converted mana cost X to its owner's hand. And then, as the Grandeur ability, you discard another card named her name. So that's why it doesn't really work in Commander that well. You have to discard a card with her own name. Target player returns a creature he or she controls to its owner's hand, then repeats this process for an artifact, enchantment, and land. It's a 3/3. So basically, what we want to do is we want to copy her, Then return her to your hand and then discard her with that ability because you don't have to pay to discard her for the Grandeur ability. That way, we're constantly bouncing things our opponents control. And then we're going to play stuff that copies that, stuff that returns her to our hand, like Riptide Laboratory. It is a land, you tap it for a colorless, or you pay to tap it, return target wizard you control to its owner's hand. So it returns the commander to your hand, and she also can return herself if you pay 6 mana. One really good card that you can put in here that's not really played in others because of its mana value, it is Supplement Form. It's a 6 mana blue instant. You return target creature to its owner's hand. You may put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. So you return your commander to your hand, put the token onto the play, and then discard your commander, and bing bada boom. You return a bunch of stuff to their hand. Then you got Sanctum of Eternity. It is a land that taps for colorless. You pay to tap it, return target commander you own from the battlefield to your hand, activate only during your turn. So it's another way just to bounce it. And remember, we're going to be playing a lot of clones to copy her as well. And that's essentially the strategy of the deck. Grandeur is a really interesting type. Mono blue is a really good one for it. Maybe adding a few colors could be a little more beneficial, get more grandeur creatures, maybe do a 5 color. I'm not sure. But blue, having her access to her from the command zone is pretty powerful. And everyone's going to underestimate you with this deck. This next deck is going to have to get your creative juices flowing. You're going to really have to search Scryfall for it. It's around Volo, and he is a background. You could choose a background. You could do like Candlekeep Sage. It doesn't really matter what background you want. But Volo is a 3 mana blue legendary creature human wizard. When he ETBs, you make Volo's Journal a legendary colorless artifact token with hexproof. And then it has the ability whenever you cast a creature spell, note one of its creature types that hasn't been noted for this artifact. Then you can pay to tap Volo, draw a card for each creature type noted on target permanent you control named Volo's Journal. And it has to choose the background. It's a 2/3. So this is actually a wizard tribal deck. Now, normally you would not play a tribal deck with Volo because you want everything to be a different tribe. However, wizards are very unique in Magic the Gathering because they have so many different races that you got snakes, you got fairies, you got merfolk, and we'll get into that. But that's essentially the theme of this deck. You want to have as many different wizard races, I guess you could say, as you can. And you could do something like Candlekeep Sage. It's a 3 mana blue legendary enchantment background. Commander creatures you own have, when this creature enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. So it can draw you a couple cards. Again, you don't really need a background, but you can play one just because it's free to play. Now, Volo is a human wizard. He's most famous for his guidebooks. The most famous and probably most infamous is Volo's Guide to All Things Magical. Here is an excerpt from the first portion of that book. It says, "This guidebook is the next in my ongoing tour of the realms. I assure thee all, gentles, that you'll find no more diligent guide than your humble servant, Volo. These last few seasons, I've trugged, ridden, swam, sailed, and even flown from icy wastes north of the spine of the world to the hot, steaming jungles of the shining south and beyond, all in thy service, gentle traveler." Now, he is known to be quite arrogant, quite cocky, of course. However, he, I mean, he kind of reminds me of Charles Darwin. He also has a guide to monsters. Yes, he's essentially just like me. He's around telling stories about different magical things. I can respect Volo. I can respect him. Now, here's a slide with just 8 different races that are also wizards. You got cephalids, you got elves, you got fairies, you got birds, you got merfolk, you got advisors and elders, you got zombies, you got giants, and a lot of them have wizard tribal stuff. Like Galecaster Colossus, for example, lets you tap an untap wizard you control, return target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. Now, there are a lot of human wizards. I think probably the best human wizard, if you wanted to only choose one human wizard outside your commander, of course, because he doesn't trigger the journal, is Azami, Lady of Scrolls, because she can tap a wizard and you get to draw a card. So it's just great value. Here's a picture of a zombie Lady of Scrolls if you want to see her. She's really cool. I actually had her as a commander where I would essentially draw my whole deck and then win with Laboratory Maniac. Hence my name. Well, I've had a lot of decks with Labman in it. Then you got Alondra Sky Dreamer. It's another game ender for this deck. It's a 4 mana blue legendary creature merfolk wizard. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a 2/2 blue drake. And then with flying, and then if you draw your fifth card for the turn, she and Drakes you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. It's a 2/4. So essentially, if your journal has 4 creatures on it and it's your turn, so you already drew one, you can tap your Volo to draw 4 cards, and then bing bada boom, swing out. Hopefully, you've drawn plenty of cards to create as many drinks as you can. And that's essentially the deck. I really like the idea of this deck because it makes you play cards you normally wouldn't play. And that creates creativity. And then you have to do workarounds. And it really just spices up the deck building process. Speaking of spicing up the deck building process, this one is a doozy, okay? So you got Sakashima the Imposter. Yeah, it's the second Sakashima commander in this set. I don't care. It is a 4 mana blue legendary creature, human rogue. When she comes into play, you choose a creature in play. And if you do, she becomes a copy of that as she comes into play, except she still has her name. Now, why is that important? It's real. The most important thing is she copies and still has her name. Because what we're going to do in this deck is it's actually going to be a mono blue gate deck. And yeah, now there's enough gates out there to essentially make a gate deck in a mono color. For example, you got Boulder's Gate. It's a legendary land gate. You tap it for a colorless, or you pay to tap it, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of other gates you control. Now, the reason why Sakashima is so important, there are 9 commander legal gates that you can play, and then there's one that's not commander legal. So you're gonna have to talk with your play group. However, even if they only let you have 9, you use dragons or Maze's End. You use Maze's End to keep getting out those gates, keeping getting out the gates. And then when you have 9 gates out, you animate one of them and then play Sakashima. She becomes a copy of that gate, but she keeps her name. So she actually comes in as a land named Sakashima the Imposter, and she will be a gate. So you will have 10 gates, and then you can win with Maze's End. Now, Kenshi Sakashima is one of the most interesting characters on Kamigawa, in my opinion. He was orphaned as a child, then eventually he learned his love for masks and costumes and acting. And then he learned about illusionary arts. He used those illusions plus his acting and costume skills to infiltrate as many groups as possible. He infiltrated any sapient creature type on Kamigawa: orcs, rats, snakes. He eventually had the ultimate goal of infiltrating the Kami and going into their world, which he did. He actually tricked Kami into believing he was a spirit. Due to his skill, his personality, he was very cocky. Unlike Gogo, he really does care about his identity and believes himself to be the best. Now, I'm not sure if this is actually canon, but the secret layer art of him implies he's still alive even to this day in modern Kamigawa. There's a lot of ways to animate lands in blue. For example, there's the Awaken ability. So what Awaken is when you cast the spell for whatever its Awaken cost is, you put an X amount of +1/+1 counters on it, whatever the Awaken number is, and then it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. For example, you got Part the Water Veils. It's a 6 mana blue sorcery. You take an extra turn after this one, and then you exile Part the Water Veils, and it has Awaken 6 for 9 mana. So you put 6 +1/+1 counters on a land, it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature token with haste. And then you can copy it with your Sakashima, which will become a gate with a different name. Bang, bada, boom. You can also use Psychic Paper to change the name. You can do some name changing situations here. And I believe Sakashima would love this card. It's a 2 mana artifact equipment. As it becomes attached to a creature, choose a creature card name and a creature type. Equipped creature has Ward 1. It can't be blocked and has the name and creature type of the last chosen name and creature type, and it's equipped too. So a lot of name changing shenanigans for this deck, which is pretty cool. Since it is a gate deck, it is a land deck, and we're going to try to get as many lands out. You can do landfall abilities like Royal Elemental. It's a 6 mana blue elemental. It has flying, and then the landfall ability says when a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain control of target creature for as long as you control Royal Elemental. It's a 3/2. So you essentially gain control of anything for each land you play, which is pretty amazing. And then you can do stuff that copies land so you can get even more gates out. Realm Sketching is a 4 mana blue sorcery. You create a token of a copy of target artifact, creature, or land. So you can do that. Uh, this is almost like a mana ramp style deck as well. It's pretty good. So I couldn't really fit the other 9 gates. There's actually 10 gates now uh, that you can play. However, here's 8 that you can fit on the bottom left corner nearby planet. That was from Infinity, and it has the acorn symbol on it, so it's technically not legal. However, that ability is the same ability on the Nexus right next to it. So I don't think it's an unfair card to play in terms of it. So, but you do have to ask your play group if you want all 10 gates. But even if you only have 9, you can use Sakashima to copy it, and you can still win with that instant win ability of Maze's End. So this next deck, I've actually talked about, I think twice in my videos before, because I really like it. But originally I made it in mono blue. It's essentially book tribal. Now, if you're a particular librarian that I know, you would love this deck. You have Arcane Encyclopedia, it draws a card. Urza's Tome, it draws a card. There are artifacts that draw cards. So that's what essentially going to be building around. And the whole reason I build around this for the joke that you throw the book at your opponent. Now, if you're not from America, I don't know how universal that term is. Throwing the book means giving them the most severe punishment. Usually we say, I hope the judge throws the book at them, giving them the most severe punishment for their crime. Well, our opponent's crime is that they actually dared to challenge us. We're the best, of course, me and you. So they're going to be punished. So how are we going to throw the book at them? We're going to animate the books. We're going to make them come to life like a Beauty and the Beast movie and then swing at our opponents with them. Katsumasa, the animator, was one of the first commanders I thought about for this deck. It's a 4 mana blue legendary creature, Moonfolk Artificer. It has flying. You pay 3. Until end of turn, target non creature artifact you control becomes an artifact creature and gains flying. If it's not a vehicle, it has base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn. So it makes any of your books 1/1 artifacts. That's not that great. But the last ability says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 3 target non creature artifacts. It's a 3/3. So it can boost your books, putting counters on them. And then you can do stuff like proliferating those counters. You can do stuff like training grounds to reduce that 3 cost to only 1. There's a lot of cool shenanigans that you can get involved in. Or if that's not your thing and you actually want someone with a book in the art, which is also a theme of this deck, you can do Veil Candlekeep Researcher. It's a 4 mana blue legendary creature, human wizard. It has vigilance, then you tap it, add amount of colorless equal to Val Candlekeep Researcher's toughness. This mana can't be spent to cast spells from your hand. So essentially, she can fuel your books to help you draw cards so you don't have to use your actual mana for it. And you can choose any background that you want for it. If you want to make this a multicolor book deck, you totally can do that. Plenty of ways to animate your artifacts, especially in blue. You got Karn, Silver Golem. You pay 1 to animate an artifact. Its power and toughness become its casting cost. So if it's a 3 mana card, it becomes a 3/3. Then you got March of the Machines. It's an enchantment that does the same thing. It makes all your non-creature artifacts artifact creatures with power and toughness equal to their CMC. So essentially animates all your books so you can throw them at your opponent. Like I said, I focused on book art as well as actual books. And you can also put maps, scrolls, tomes, whatever you want to put in there. I put Rise and Shine in there, which has a book that is being animated. So it makes all your non-creature artifacts 0/0 artifact creatures, and then you put 4 +1/+1 counters on each of them if you overload it. Then something like Nerd Rage is funny because reading is for nerds, and it also has books in it. It is a 3 mana blue aura. Enchant creature, when it enters the battlefield, you draw 2 cards, and the enchant creature has you have no maximum hand size, and whenever this creature attacks, if you have 10 or more cards in hand, it gets +10/+10 until end of the turn. That's pretty good. So the whole theme of the deck is to play books, animate books, play book art, and throw them at your opponent. It's just a real fun, flavorful kind of deck, and you can do this with almost any kind of art you want. I've also done it with cup tribal. You can do a chair tribal. You can do whatever you want with it. It's pretty fun. And those are 10 mono blue unique deck ideas. Have you heard of some of these? Have you played any of them? Comment down below which one is your favorite, or if you want me to talk about another one of them specifically more. I have longer form videos where I spend about 10 minutes per deck. Here I probably did about 4 minutes per deck. So you can comment down below. Check out my Patreon. There's a free membership in there so you can get on the Discord. I would love to talk to you about Magic, talk to you about decks. I am a new channel, so there's not thousands of people in there, so it can be more personalized. So that's a plus, and I eventually want to get some gameplay in with you guys. So if you like my videos, like what I do on here, go ahead and check that out, and I'll see you guys next time.